What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and I am here with my very good friend Greg, and we are going to talk to you about a really awesome book that's available now called The Ultimate Random Encounters book. But before we talk about the book itself, Greg, if people are unfamiliar with you and what it is you do and where you can be found and all that, why don't you give us a little bit of your history?
Sure. I'm a part of a podcast, which is what ultimately led to this book called Very Random Encounters. It's an actual play podcast where we randomize as many things as possible. So our characters, our plot lines, our places, the villains, everything, we randomize it and see what happens. We play a wide variety of RPGs. So
Not just D&D.
not just D&D. If there's a genre that you like, we have probably done it on our show because we've been running for 4 years now, I think.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And you may also know me from a role-playing game that I wrote called Glitter Hearts, which is a magical transforming heroes book. You may also know me on the internet because I'm a Pokemon person and I'm on a Pokemon podcast. So you may know me from there.
Yeah, a lot of really good stuff. Greg's involved. He's got his hands in a lot of awesome things. We forgot to mention it at the start, but stick around to the end. We're actually going to be giving away 5 copies of this book, so hang around till the end to find out how to enter. And also, it was a while back, but the Glitter Hearts gameplay does exist here on this channel, so you can find that.
Yes, and it's linked on my stuff because I'm like, hey, an actual gameplay for people to
learn. For sure. So, we have this book, like you said, it stemmed from Very Random Encounters.
Yep.
But it is the Ultimate Random Encounter book, and it says right here on the front, hundreds of original encounters to help bring your next RPG adventure to life. So, why don't you give me the elevator pitch what this book is?
So this book is it is a bunch of encounters.
Sure.
So, it is broken out into various sections, so no matter where you are in your campaign, if you don't have anything planned, I guarantee you there's a section in there for wherever you are, and you can roll up an encounter, and it should give you enough ideas to at least get through a couple of hours. All the encounters are pretty open-ended, so however you take them, we kind of viewed them as story starters. So if you're in the city, if you're in a small town, if you're just on the road, there's a table and an encounter for you. And you just have to roll up and see what happens.
Yeah, so speaking of that, it is in 3 parts, right? Part 1 is encounters, part 2 is GM tools, and part 3 is downtime.
Yeah.
And the encounter section, as Greg stated, is broken up into basically locales, right? City, village, mountains, dungeons, deserts, at sea. And basically every couple pages there is a nice map here that shows that. And then you have your list of basically 100 encounters per, so you can obviously use your percentile die. And then if it's on the map, the little ones with the little red circles are tied specifically to the map. So
there
I
are
have
at least 4 encounters tied to every map.
Yeah, so I happen to flip to page 30, which is the Ancient Tavern, which is in the village section. And if I randomly just pick number 37... it says a local innkeeper is trying to sell his inn to a semi-famous hero and needs the players to help put on a good show to make the sale. So that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. Story prompts. Now, this could be the start of an adventure in the Ancient Tavern, right? It could be you as the DM are like, oh, I didn't expect the party to go to a town. I have nothing in this town. Well, now I can be like, well, I have an Ancient Tavern. And this guy needs help selling it. So we've now, but you've also got the other 100 encounters. Not saying that you could throw some of these potentially if you read through it up on a job board. You could go the very random encounter style and be like, I don't know what's going on in the town. Roll a percentile. Yeah. You, and you, the rest of the party, everybody 4 percentile rolls at a party of 4. Give me a second, I'll read it. Okay, these 4 things are happening.
Yeah.
Let's go from there, right?
And I will tell you this: we are putting our mouths where our money is because we are using our very book to do our season. This we're doing right now for Very Random Encounters. So we are actually practically using our book to make sure that it works.
I mean, again, that's the content that they're produced, that they're known for, that led to this book being created. So, obviously, if you weren't confident in it, you wouldn't make a whole season of the show based on the ability to use the book.
Yeah.
So
If you look carefully, you may run into a bunch of Pokemon things in this
really
book.
interesting. I'm not going to say I'm surprised. All right. Why don't you? Do you have a particular location, or I mean, I'm not going to ask you for a specific encounter because that'd be crazy. But do you have something particular that you like? Well, I gave one from that I randomly flipped to. If you have a specific locale or something you like, maybe we'll have you read one as well, so we can get an idea for some variety of what we can expect here in this book.
Sure. Let me go. There's a bunch of good ones in the mountains.
Okay.
A bunch of ones I like in the mountains.
Probably where all the Pokemon ones are. That's what I guess.
No. At least one of them is on the road.
Okay. All right.
Let's see.
This is yeah.
Oh yeah, here's one that I like. A monk sits atop a stone alongside the mountain paths. As the players pass them, they suggest that the path ahead is too deadly. The monk offers the players a place to stay for the night while the danger passes for nothing more than some good company.
And again, what constitutes good company? That is up to your players to decide.
Yeah.
But like you said, they're open ended, and some of these are like that was a relatively short one. I have one right here, which is the Crypt of Gems in the underground cave, and this is a full paragraph. I'll read this one just to show you how some of them are slightly longer. Right, the walls here are covered in majestic, glowing, multicolored stones. Closer inspection reveals each stone holds elemental magic capable of casting spells. Disturbing the stones, however, causes the walls to shake, and earth, wind, fire, and air elemental guardians attack the players to scare them off. That was significantly larger. We even have monsters listed out here, kind of. Again, no stat blocks or anything, just high level stuff. But it could be as simple as some of the stuff we discussed earlier, where we're just talking about some high level things that's open ended. This is we actually, if the players are screwing around here, we've got elementals are showing up to fight them.
Yep.
And then that gives you, and again, you could do it like we're talking about here, where we're figuring out stuff on the fly in the moment.
Yep.
But there's no reason that you, the thoughtful, well prepared DM who thinks these things out ahead of time, says, hey, they're going to go into a cave. I'm going to roll 3 or 4 things up ahead of time. And then I've got my list, and then I can drop when I have the players determine if I want to set a random encounter. I'll set it for this point, and then I'll use number 32 as the one there. Yeah. So you've got that planned out, rather than everything you having to backpedal and do it on the fly. But it's also a good tool for just that.
Yeah, another one that I like in the dungeon section.
Sure,
we had a lot of fun with the dungeon ones. Number 47. There's a coffin in the center of the room. Anyone who knocks or jostles the coffin, a voice inside says, just 5 more minutes, please.
See? That's...
They open the coffin, a very angry vampire attacks the players.
That's awesome. So again, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. And as a DM, I will say one of my most coveted things is any book I can have that just has lists of things. Whether that be NPC names, whether that be unique items, whether that's furniture, art things, types of gemstones, encounter bits, any of that stuff. Just having a big compilation, whether it's all in one book across 8 different books, statted out in a PDF or a Google Doc or whatever you want. Lists are one of your most powerful tools, because when you're in a pinch, a list can pull you out of that.
Yep.
Rather than you having to stop the game early, do that whole thing where you're just like, try to derail the conversation and segue to something else while you flip through some stuff real quick. Like I said, end the session early, call for a break. Especially if you do stuff like we do, where you do content creation, where you're doing podcasting or streaming or things like that. Dead air time is the worst. So anything you can do to fill that saves the editor's time later on. So we went through a lot of the stuff for the encounter section, which was part 1. So part 2 is Game Master Tools, which has a lot here about NPC generation and stuff like that. We've got some locations, we've got some monsters. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the whole second section?
The second section, it has a lot of ideas behind it. So the second section was also if you didn't want to take a pre-built encounter, you could roll on a location, a monster, a motivation, and a wild card, and create your own encounter on the fly. So the second section is a lot of shorter prompts, but cover things like what's this weird location they're at? Who is here? Why is this person here? But also we also wanted to have it be that you could also use it, some of it for your own character generation, for your own NPC generation. So we were going to have a list of NPCs, but then we realized you can get a list of NPCs literally everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What's more important and what people mostly don't know what to do with NPCs is once you've created the name and what they are, why are they there? So the motivation table for us was, here's 100 reasons of what somebody wants that can drive why that person exists. And that was very important for us to include in the book. Be like, you can use it as your own backstory, but also if you don't know, they walk into a bar and they want to know who's there, you can use any number of name generators and then roll on this table to find out what they want and why they're around. What are they looking for? And then this is also where we put our magic effects. So when things go right or wrong with magic,
sure,
like
yeah,
chaos. And then the final, which is wild card, is just what if you want chaos?
sure.
What if you just want weird things happening? Go for it.
So I tell you what, why don't you pick a location? We'll go back and forth. You pick a location,
Okay.
I'll pick a monster. We'll go back and forth. We'll go through it that way.
All right, location. I will look at the chilly operating room of a necromancer's laboratory.
Okay, and then I've got for monster 8 mud people that, when destroyed, merge into one giant mud blob that can create any type of appendage it needs. So if you want to go for motivation,
Yeah, their motivation is they want to be liked by everyone.
okay, and the magical effect surrounding that is everyone is rendered extremely sleepy. If they don't move their full movement each turn, they fall asleep. And then if you want to end us with a wild card here.
And the wild card is this is our favorite because we were like, this could be used for a sci-fi because number 39, you're actually in space and on a different planet.
See? I mean, and that's, again, we obviously, that was just 4 random ones. This was not scripted ahead of time or anything. But there's 100 options for each of the things we just discussed.
Yep.
So you could, like I said, this could be a fun thing where you do this in your own time and just build up a bunch of these scenarios to have them in your back pocket for when you need to pull something out. But again, going sort of the very random encounter situation, you could do this on the fly, or this could be a fun thing to have the players do too.
Yeah.
Where like, hey guys, you know what, I didn't really expect you to be here, but I've got something for it. Let's collab. We're collaboratively storytelling anyway. We're playing D&D. Let's do it together. You know, let's narrative telephone build this thing out, yes and it, and see what comes up. And then all of a sudden, this might lead to the most memorable NPC of the game is the random thing you generated where you apparently were on another planet. You know. Right. So that was chapter part 2, and then part 3 is downtime. So let's talk a little bit about that.
So part 3 was supposed to be part of part 1.
Okay.
But when we wrote it and when we turned it in, and we all agreed that it didn't fit anywhere.
Okay.
It really needed to be its own thing because one of the things everybody has a short rest or everybody has a long rest, and then it's just sort of like smash cut to the next thing. And we're like, well, you lose out a lot of character development if you skip over these things. Or like, it's going to take you 3 weeks to get to the next town. So downtime was the section that we really wanted to write about prompts for you to get into the heads of your characters, to help expand your characters, to have the kind of conversations that people have. Like, if you're sitting around for 3 weeks, you're not going to be silent the entire time. You're going to bring up weird conversations. So we want to make sure that you can have as much fun in those downtimes as you could in a specific location having an adventure. So we wrote 100 downtime prompts. Some are hard to do because we just did the 2 truths and a lie for a character one on the show.
Sure.
Which is very hard when you're thinking, what are 2 true things about the character and what is a lie?
Sure.
That also other people at the table won't immediately guess.
Right.
And so, like, it's really to prompt you to explore into your characters more.
So you grab one and then I'll grab one.
Okay. Let me go. Conversation shifts to what the characters would do if they won the Giga Gold lottery.
Right. All right. That's, again, for some characters, that's everything, right? You know,
Right.
I'm not going to stereotype and say it's the rogue, right? But, like, certain characters, it's all about getting that bread, right? We got to, the things I can do, the wizard can have all of the spells in the spell book. Or you might get the more righteous type who's like, well, I'm going to build an orphanage and I'm going to do all this kind of stuff. And that's absolutely a conversation, that we in real life have. Like, oh, if I win this lottery, what am I going to do?
What am
right?
I going to do?
I also feel like, I don't know if it's in here. It might be. But the conversations that, at least, I'm sure you had, but I always had growing up is like, okay, if these people got into a fight, if these 2 superheroes got into a fight, if not, that's what I would add, something along those lines of like, well, I'm a cleric of whatever. What if my god fought your god? Who would win in the fight?
I want to say we have it in here. Like,
you know what I mean? I could see that happening, but I've got a significantly longer one here, so let's read this one. And I'll say, so during a strange shared dream, the players are visited by a figure in a blue cloak using a pickaxe to break open a cloud the color of midnight. They introduce themselves as the, I guess that's Woodigan? Wizard?
Woodigan, Wizard of the Weary.
All right.
You will find the Woodigan wizards throughout this book.
Okay.
Every location has one.
They need to extract people's nightmares in order to fuel their ongoing dream experiments. If desired, each player should describe their worst nightmare. Then have a combat encounter where all of the nightmares come true. If the players are victorious, the wizard gives the players a card with their picture on it. This card can be used to cast a spell that summons a target's nightmares to attack them. That is a whole... There's so much to unpack there compared to, like, what would you do if you won the lottery?
Yeah.
So that there's a very broad spectrum of things to happen. But this is a really great thing to just build that character development for folks when they're sitting there. And, it's I often try, depending on the group that I'm in, some people we just roll into the role play and you can really start diving into the heads of the characters and figure that stuff out. But a simple prompt, and, maybe this isn't every long rest, every short rest, but you might decide, every so often, maybe once every other session, hey, we're going to roll on this table. So I want you guys to just, in general, plan ahead, think about your character, just try to get into the head of your character. We might get into a role play campfire style session, if it's not going to be, and I feel like most people, this campfire style situation is like when we tell everybody our backstory in the early sessions of the game and then they never revisit it again. There's not that like, what would you do in this scenario? And the other one that caught me, because we see it in so many different social media, whether it be a cartoon, comic book, movie, is the characters decide to play an RPG. Which character GMs, what kind of character do the other PCs play as? Your current GM should play as an NPC within the group so they aren't left out. We see that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, 100% somebody in the party is just going to be themselves in the game.
Yeah.
But other people might want to be completely different, and that could be a really fun thought experiment.
We have another one that I really like is the players are having a conversation about what they will absolutely not do for a mission. What is everyone's limit? Would anyone ever change their mind? Why is that their limit? So it's one of those things where, we talk about it like, you see it in movies, you see it in TV, like, I will never kill anybody. Like, and having that conversation at some point while they're on the road helps establish that tension, because then it's like, oh, you already said we shouldn't do this. Are we going to steal from these people or not? Because you said that was a hard limit.
Right, sure. Yeah, what's your line in the sand? Yeah, and that's that, again, establishing that in the course of the game to that point. Like, if I know that I will never kill Like I have my Batman rule, right? I won't kill anybody, right? That's my hard line in the sand. But I only know that, and then like there's a tense moment and I kill somebody, but nobody knew that.
Right.
Like I'm struggling over here. Ted is struggling. But the party's just like, all right, whatever. So he just killed the guy this time. No big deal.
No big deal.
But like that would have been a huge thing if I established up front, like, no, I don't kill any people, or, I don't use guns. That's like, but then I do in this one scenario to save the party, to do the thing.
Right.
We at least establish what my hard lines are, right? Steal from the rich, give to the poor. I don't steal. I don't lie, right? That's another one. Like, if my character is like, I won't flat out lie to people, but I might not tell the truth, but then I do a bold-faced lie. Again, if nobody knows that, that's an entirely lost moment of character development and stuff like that. So.
And Downtime lets you build that in. Like, you can have these conversations, and they can be one-off things, but people will remember them. Like, oh, wait, I know that about your character.
Sure,
Wait a minute. Or that's a big moment that you decided to do that, because before you said you would never do that. Yeah,
right.
So those things that we really... That's why it's its own section, because it really didn't fit anywhere, but it was so important for us to make sure it's in the book. Because those type of role-playing elements help make stories memorable.
Sure. So, if we did a good job selling this during this interview, and people wanted to pick up the Ultimate Random Encounters book, I see right here on the back the MSRP is $17.99 US. Yes. But where would people go to get a copy of this?
So you can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Pretty much most booksellers can order it. It's available everywhere now that books are sold. There's also Kindle versions of it. So there are ebook versions of it. If you don't want to order the big book, you can get Kindle versions of it. But you can also go to your local bookstore can order it and get it in.
Okay.
But it is currently on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, a bunch of game stores.
Sure.
So, if you just type it in, you'll find it. Also, we have a URL that leads to the author page, the Simon & Schuster page. So if you go to bit.ly/randombook, with the R and the B have to be capitalized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how that works.
Then you can see there, and from that page, it will show you local bookstores, also local sellers, online things that aren't Amazon and Barnes & Noble. So if you don't like using the biggies, which I understand, there are small independent booksellers on that page that you can order through. They're doing online delivery as well.
And I'll have links in the description to all of the things we just talked about, so you can click on those yourself and make your own decision. Well, Greg, thank you for coming on and talking about this. Is there anything else you want the people to know about the book, or you, or anything else before we close this out?
Very, very proud of the book. Really, even if you as a DM or a player are like, I just want to get ideas, the whole thing we wrote about this book is we wanted to make sure that amongst the four of us who do this as a professional hobby, and what we think is exciting and unique in adventures and in encounters got into this book. We really try to make these encounters things that you just wouldn't find anywhere or couldn't come from anybody else but us. And we went in very much with the mindset of each of these encounters could be a springboard to something bigger if you wanted it, or it can just be one night and we never deal with it again.
Sure.
And we didn't want to ever hard code how you had to deal with the adventure. We don't tell you what the outcomes are. We don't say, and then this happens. Here's the setup. Whatever you do with it, that is what you do with it. So we really wanted to make it very useful for a wide variety of people to take it and just get inspiration from it or use it in their games.
Well, there you go, folks. Like I said, links in the description to go pick this up. You won't be disappointed to have another book of lists and encounters in your DM toolbox. Again, you could probably run as they are, or run through an entire campaign just using the prompts. Or again, just use them to fill in when you need something, when you're scrambling, or when you just want to liven up your dungeon, city, whatever kind of encounter. So, thank you, Greg, for coming out, and I will see you guys next time. So a huge shout out and thank you once again to Greg for giving away 5 copies of this book. Unfortunately, this will only be for folks in the US only. I'm sorry to say, but it is what it is. So all you need to do is like this video and drop a comment down below. Any kind of comment, whatever you want. If you want to say something interesting you think about the book or what you probably end up using it for, that'd be awesome, but really any comment will do. We'll take a couple days, pick 5 random winners, contact you via the comments, and then once you get us an address, we'll ship the books out to you. So thank you all once again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.